Good afternoon and welcome to PETE&C 2021. My name is Brant Hutzel and I will serve as the session manager for this session. Please be sure to engage with this session's presenters using the chat functions and also share your thoughts and ideas of our conference on social media using hashtag PETE&C and hashtag VPETE2021. Today, I'm very pleased to bring you the session EdTech Deployment Spotlights of Success. And I would like to introduce Ramon Aviles to kick off this session.
Thank you, Brand. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you, PETE&C, for making this event a reality. We are thrilled to come together with the educators from all across Pennsylvania, and we're happy that you join us today. My name is Ramon Aviles, as Brad just mentioned, and I am the VP of Sales for Visual Sound Audio Visual Solutions. Along with our partner, Smart Technologies, known for their interactive panels and software, we're pleased to present this session today. We hope not only to bring you the insight perspectives from three key local leaders in our education, we also want to bring some awareness on some hybrid and remote learning, educational technology, solutions, and tactics being implemented to support the new instructional and learning environments in today's world. So my co-host today is Kristin Slavin. She's the VP of North America Sales for Smart Technologies, who will facilitate this session, along with another Smart Technology representative, Heather Schrader, who's the Educational Solutions Consultant, and she will be assisting and monitoring all the questions. But before I pass this baton over to Kristin, so she can introduce our special presenters for today, I would like to mention again what Brad just mentioned, that we encourage everyone to be highly interactive session during the presentation, and please send any questions along in the chat box, and we will voice all these to the entire group, and we'll review them, any outstanding questions at the end of the presentation if we have time. So no further ado, Kristin, I want to give you the floor, and thank you.
All right, Ramon, thank you so much. And we are so honored to be here with Visual Sound. Visual Sound is our primary partner in audiovisual for education solutions. So they support districts out there with all of their needs and successful deployments. So happy to be here, and thank you, PETE&C and Visual Sound. So I'd like to introduce the districts that are going to be on this panel today. So first we have Matt Campbell, and Matt is Director of Learning Technologies at Milton Hershey Schools. And actually that's a private co-residential school campus. And so Matt will be speaking to us on our panel. And then next we have a slightly different kind of district than Matt's district, which is great that we're going to have that variety. We have Luke Bilger and Michelle Harris, and both of them are directors of education technology, and they lead all aspects of technology integration, including procurement, deployment, professional learning, and their belief in education technology is that it's not a substitute for a great teacher, but actually really enhances great teaching. So, and I think Matt's philosophy is somewhat the same way, in that Matt, when I was talking to Matt, he told me that he really provides all the directions for teachers around using technologies and how to promote best practices for technology. So between the three of them, I think you're going to hear some great insight on best deployments, but also really focusing in on what's happened over this past year, because it's been quite a different world for all of us. So that's really what we're going to focus in on today. So I think what I'm going to do, if that's okay with everybody, is I'm going to start with asking some questions, again, focusing in on how teaching and learning changed over the past year. And I'll probably start with School District of Philadelphia. So, maybe Matt and Luke, you could give us some insights on how you've tackled teaching and learning over the past year. And I believe you're still remote, so maybe you can give us an update on where you are in that deployment and what you're getting. I believe you're getting prepared for hybrid learning, but maybe talk about that and talk about how you've tackled teaching and learning over the past year.
Sure. I'll start with talking about the technology and how we've approached that. And Michelle, I'll pass it to you to talk a little bit about professional learning. So in March, when when the pandemic hit and schools had to make a decision, we went immediately to remote instruction. We went one-to-one with Chromebooks for every student almost overnight. And we found that the approach of the technology that we used was a little bit different than if we were face-to-face. So for example, we increased our reliance on the cloud and using things that were web-based because of the primary tool to deliver instruction to students was a Chromebook. And for an example of that is we have smart boards in most of our district classrooms, and we use Smart Notebook a lot, which is a downloadable program that allows teachers to build engaging lessons and deliver them at the front of the class. But with this situation where students are at home the entire time and teachers aren't in front of them, we shifted to smart software in the cloud, their SLSO, Smart Learning Suite online program, because it gave us the tools that we needed to work with our students, along with Zoom and Google Meet, and using the Chromebooks in that way. And so it really was looking at what tools do we have, and then what aspects of those tools work best in a remote environment, and then what tools do we need to get. And a lot of that was just procuring Chromebooks. But another, I think I zoomed down a little bit. But there were other things that came into play along support, but I definitely want to give Michelle a little bit of a time to talk about professional learning, which was a key part. You can't just throw technology out there, but how do we support our teachers?
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks, Luke, and good afternoon, everybody. So the professional learning, obviously, when the pandemic started, everybody was like panic mode and trying to figure out how are we going to teach these students. And in the spring, we actually provided interactive slide decks to all of our teachers. And that was kind of how we got through the school year last year, where the teachers had these resources, they were using them, and we were providing the content for them. And then as we shifted into the summer and the fall, there was more of a focus on, like Luke said, using the tools that we already have in a smarter, more effective way for this pandemic teaching, as everybody calls it. And so we had a huge focus on going from, large webinars of 100 people per session to hit every teacher, to really drilling down to differentiated, targeted professional development. And one of our main foci was Smart Learning Suite Online. And how do we provide differentiated professional development so teachers can not only conceptualize, but actually implement the tool. And one way that we've really drilled down to be able to do that is we've reduced the amount of content in our sessions, we've reduced the session size, and we actually created differentiated PD tracks. So we're in the process of doing professional development for a beginner track where they have a series of sessions and they'll be proficient at the end, and an intermediate track as well. And we're looking to do that with our Google tools also. So not just expanding the amount of PD and the topics, but also really drilling down to very specific things that teachers need to do to be proficient with these tools is how we've really adjusted the approach as compared to what we did in the past.
Great. So a lot of, it sounds like there's a lot of adaptation as you went along. So makes sense.
Absolutely. It's ever growing process.
Absolutely. Flexibility sounds like the key thing. So Matt, I'll push that question to you now. I think you've been fortunate enough, correct me if I'm wrong, to be in person this fall. I'm not sure if that's correct or not.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So can you reflect on your efforts to support both, before you were, because, you've got a co-residential school, so you've got students on campus. So maybe before you came back and then adjusting to coming back, and how that all worked with teaching and learning. It sounds like a huge challenge.
Sure. So we've done a little bit of both this year. As the pandemic hit last year, we, similar to what the school district of Philadelphia had to do, we immediately pivoted and went to online learning. And we did synchronous learning, and we used our, Canvas as our LMS for the middle school and high school, and Google, it was our LMS for our elementary. And so we did synchronous learning, and teachers had to learn rather quickly. We had to provide PD on the fly, as far as, just providing different like webcasts and screencasts for different ways to do things, and really help them understand exactly how to use video conferencing. A lot of them, I mean, Zoom is something that a lot of people didn't hear of, and so we had to really talk about what video conferencing platform are we going to use, and kind of come down to, hey, let's push everyone towards this so we can at least try to support people, because so we use Google Meet and Zoom and things like that, but we landed on Zoom. But we provide synchronous learning for pre-K through 12 for till the end of the school year. And then we were fortunate enough, our school really worked hard to develop a plan. Since we are a residential school, we were able to have our kids come back 2 weeks early in the summer. We were able to quarantine during that period of time, and then really asked our kids to remain on campus until Christmas time. And during that time, we were able to do face-to-face learning. And so our teachers had to shift back from a synchronous online virtual learning to the classroom learning, which was a little bit different too as well, because we had some students who were had to remain at what we call our health center, and so we were doing in classroom learning face to face along with synchronous. So we all have teacher iPads, and so we got them tripods, and they were able to Zoom and allow students to participate in on the classroom lessons and not miss out, and continue to follow through while they were out for any type of illness, and then rejoin their group once they were done with that. And then, as kids go home for breaks or longer breaks, we brought them back and had 2 weeks of virtual. So we switched back to virtual again for 2 weeks while kids were on campus. They were in their student homes, and then teachers, had to, use their time to focus in on what was that synchronous lesson going to be looking like. And so we had to provide PD for that as well. So we've had a little mixture of both going back and forth, and really it was a challenge for our teachers, but they've really stepped up to the plate and really were able to develop some nice lessons and really switch back and forth.
That's excellent. A lot of diversity there too. And I'm seeing Michelle and Luke kind of nod their heads as they're preparing. I think you all are preparing for a blended solution coming up so that you're not fully remote.
Yes, we are in the process of opening to a hybrid where students who have selected can return. And in that process, it was about what's the best technology that will help enable teachers to leverage the tools that we have now in a way where the kids in front of them have a very similar experience to the kids at home. And they're not trying to have like two different lessons going on at one time for the different groups. And also in thinking about this pandemic, while it feels like it's forever, does have an end point. So if we're going to invest in technology, we need to invest in technology that still has a place in a face-to-face classroom or in the world that we come back to when we're no longer remote. So we've invested in, for all of our classrooms, in really great document cameras and speaker units that really amplify the audio throughout the classroom, and also give teachers a bunch of different, and a lot of teachers who are joining today probably have document cameras because it is a popular tool in the classroom, but it really gives flexibility, especially newer ones that are 4K, great video quality, work, and you can do multiple things with them. So in our case, you can work with manipulatives that both groups of students can easily see. You can aim it at the students in class, and they can have a discussion real time with the kids at home, because we also amplified the audio so they can hear each other easily. So if a kid online asks a question, the kid in the classroom can hear it. The teacher doesn't have to be that middle person. Just making it easy to have the students at home and in person feel like, yes, we're not in the same space, but we are, and we can hear each other, and we're doing the same activities, and we're engaging together in the lesson. So, unfortunately, I can't tell you how that's worked because we're not there yet, but we are getting there yet, and we are just starting this week. We are just starting ramping up, as Michelle knows, because she's had to schedule and work it all out. All of this PD to prepare people for this, but really excited about the place that this technology has brought us now that we can do things, but also I'm excited to see how that technology will continue to impact the classroom when the pandemic ends.
That's great. It's funny. That is exactly what I was just thinking about as that next question is like, there's been opportunities through all this. I think what you guys are talking about, there's been all kinds of opportunities. And what do you think, what have been some successes? And maybe I'll ask you, Matt, that have presented themselves that you kind of see yourself continuing to move forward as we quote unquote go back to normal.
Right. So, and it's just, we just happened to choose some LMSs like Canvas and things like that. Basically what it did was it just forced everyone to dive in, where normally sometimes you just try things out here or there. But people have really had to dive in and really grab every opportunity to really see all the full features of technology, and really get into providing opportunities for teachers to really dig in and allow them to create wonderful opportunities to use technology to really amplify what they're doing. And I think many things that the teachers are doing now, they're going to continue to do in the future because they just see the benefits of the technology and how it's enhanced them. I'd say the second thing that probably has happened, and it's just, this whole pandemic's been unfortunate, but it's really put a focus on technology and given us a chance to really focus in and have technology as a PD priority. We have used SMART and really used their trainings to really focus our teachers in on the SMART Learning Suite and all the tools that come along with our new SMART boards that we put in our rooms, and really allowed them to really dig in deeper in that area too as well. And that's just has really enhanced what they're doing, their ability to use all the features, and really allowed our kids to really interact with those and really get the most out of it. So, and that's just going to help us in the future. It just really set a really strong foundation for our teachers in that way.
Yeah, so an opportunity. No, that totally makes sense. Michelle and Luke, you've talked about like the Chromebooks, SLSO, the dot cams, anything else that you're seeing that presented itself that you were like, no matter what, as we quote unquote move back to normal, we're going to make sure that we keep this, that we've learned something and keep it. Anything else that you would touch on?
I definitely want to touch on some things that aren't very specific to the school district of Philadelphia, but as we know, this pandemic shined light on all the inequities that exist. And one of them were our low-income communities' access to internet just was not the same. And so through work with our local internet providers and our city, one of the things that's been able to be done, and I'm hopeful that this will continue forward, is to provide access to internet to anyone who needs it throughout our city with a very easy. So seeing that access increase, even though that's not specific, it's not something the district is necessarily doing, although we are partner and helping with it. It's increasing our ability of what we can do in the future. Now that we're one-to-one and we've never been one-to-one before, that would have looked different if kids take their Chromebook home and don't have internet. But right now, for the foreseeable future, that's not the issue. So that's pretty exciting.
I hear there's never going to be a snow day again. The kids can, because you've got that ability, right?
I mean, as a parent and a former child, that's a sad thought, but I also understand it. And so we'll see where we go with the snow days. But if that's the case, or if something like this happens again, or, a bunch of other different possible scenarios, we have the technology and some of that experience. And Matt, I agree a lot with what you were talking about with and Michelle can talk about this, we've been providing this PD for years. But something about this urgency and being forced to use it has changed the way that it's being taken. Michelle, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, and I definitely wanted to chime in because I think, Kristin, you said this, and Matt, you said it also, like there's an opportunity here. And we keep having discussions that, among the EdTech leadership team in Philly, that like we have a huge opportunity here to shift teacher practice and not just shift it for pandemic mode, but to shift it for, incorporating those 21st century skills and making sure our kiddos are ready, to enter the workforce in college and career. And so one of the things that we're actually doing, this is intertwined with everything that we're doing around tech and PD and integration, but it's also kind of off to the side a little bit as well, is that we're taking all the lessons we've learned from PD development, examples, our coaches with the boots on the ground, but we're also going to be leveraging the expertise of our teachers that have embraced this technology and have really become rock stars in what this technology integration looks like. And we're creating a bank of what we're calling effective strategies. And these are strategies that are going to align to student engagement, collaboration, higher order thinking, and it'll be real life examples of lessons and activities that our teachers have used with students to promote some of those skills. So that's kind of like taking it outside of like the tech, the device, the hardware world, and even taking it a step further from PD, that we're hoping to get teachers to think about technology and how they use it in a different way on purpose and for the long term. And also as an opportunity to collaborate with our curriculum department on what this technology integration looks like, how it connects to the standards and the scope and sequence and things like that. So that's another kind of huge project that's coming out of our office as a result of this pandemic. That won't be like public or out there, you know, for at least like 6 months or so, but it's kind of work behind the scenes that we're doing to capitalize on the changes that have happened in the past 11 months.
Michelle, and I know that you guys have a great relationship with curriculum, but have you seen that get tighter as, you know, as the pandemic unfolded?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the spring, those Google interactive slide decks were created as a collaborative effort of like 200 people between EdTech, curriculum, teachers were pulled into the fold. So it started there. And then as we are moving into, you know, the hybrid world and then what life's going to look like afterwards, we're definitely included in collaboration when it comes to professional development. You know, these effective strategies are going to open the door for making more connections between tech and curriculum. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities that I think we're trying to capitalize on.
And I would just want to add that collaboration even extends beyond the school district. I mean, the level of collaboration and to the you know, thanks to our partners, but that we've had with our vendors has increased. All of our vendors that we've been purchasing from, yes, you know, they've all, and every technology vendor has enjoyed the, you know, an increased sales because of this. It had to do that, but I have found that they've given back. They've been a part of us. They've been a partner. They've provided boots on the ground. They've provided you know, sessions to talk about, you know, where we're going, how we can develop teachers. And then on top of that, community partners, like I talked about the internet, Comcast, T-Mobile, Verizon, the city of Philadelphia, a lot of people really coming together as a community during this time that has been great. And I hope that those relationships last past the pandemic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And maybe, Matt, you can touch on some of the professional learning and how you went about that as well, from your standpoint, you know, with your teachers.
Right. So like I said, we were given large chunks of time, which was a real gift for us, in order to really, you know, our school recognized that teachers just need support. You know, how are we going to help them learn how to transition to a more synchronous virtual learning world? And so, you know, a lot of things that we did were, you know, after school, like volunteer times. We created, one of the things that's kind of difficult is, you know, how do I troubleshoot? Because, you know, everything's connected technology-wise. How do I troubleshoot this, even if it's simple as Zoom? And so we tried to create pages where we could give teachers a whole list of things that they could try themselves, so they didn't have to spend the time to call us. Not that we weren't there, but just to try to help them, empower students and our parents to be able to troubleshoot for themselves, and give them a whole list of things to try and try to work that out. And then there were times that we just recreated new support features, whether it was direct lines where people were able to call, you know, email boxes, special email boxes and things like that with someone that's monitoring it. We just had to rethink everything for support and for training with our teachers and our parents here on campus. our parents off campus. That was new for us. I mean, usually when our kids are learning, they are here on campus. In the virtual world, they were out with their what we call parent sponsors. So they're out in the communities, whether that was Philadelphia, New York, it could have been, across the country. And so we needed to provide a way to provide them training and understanding and support. So, it was interesting. We really had to think outside the box. And again, similar to what teachers are learning and are going to change, we learned and are going to make changes the way we present things and how we train and how we do things. So, again, this whole pandemic has really pushed us to really challenge our thinking too as well.
No, that totally, and you're right. That's just a whole new group of, when you think about professional learning, sometimes we're always thinking about the teachers, but you guys had to think about the bigger community. I don't know, Michelle and Luke, if you want to take that on too.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that I had meant to bring up earlier. It's different when kids are at home learning. It's not just the teachers. The teachers can only do so much support when they're not physically with the students. So, one of the things we did is we opened up 3 technology support centers for families. That one's really based heavily on the tech support. I'm struggling with my Chromebook. It's not working. Something's wrong. I can go there in person and get help. But then we also opened a daily parent tech support phone number that parents can call. Someone will walk them through what they need to do in Google Classroom, help them do something in SLSO, just sometimes even talk through connecting to their home internet. But giving a place that parents can call and get support as well, that's brand new for us. And that's something that I'm glad to see is happening, especially as we move into one-to-one and have all of this technology available to students. But for our parents who are supporting us at home and are a big part, they have a place to call, and that's something that we've had to set up as well.
Yeah, the other thing that we've done around like parent and even community support is our district has an office of family, the purpose is family engagement. And they have a dedicated team of translators that work directly with schools for, families where English is not the primary language. So we actually worked with that office to provide pretty intense professional development for their staff. They have about 150 staff members that support all the schools. But we also, through that office, were able to meet and provide development for community organizations like, ethnic organizations that provide advocacy groups, support, things like that. So we were able to actually provide training in PD around some of the core tools like Google Classroom, Meet, Zoom, outside of even the district to some of our community partners as well. In addition to that, the city had in place, I forget what they're called. Luke will know better than I will, but basically, centers that students can go during the day to get support while parents are at work, things like that. And we also provided professional development to those staff members as well, who were employed by the city, I believe, so that they are able to support students as they go through it as well. So it was multi-tiered with not just tech support, but we also provided professional development across to parents and community members as well.
No, that's great. And you do hope that can continue after, right? So when we go back to, more face-to-face, that those parents can stay involved.
Right.
I mean, I know that they probably don't want quite the day-to-day involvement that they have, but still to be able to stay involved with some of the skills that you're giving them.
Oh, as a parent, I agree completely. I do not want the 24/7. I love them dearly. But yeah, and Michelle's right. And on top of that, I just want to add, one is that our public housing has stepped up and they've gotten trained so that if our students are in public housing, there are people that can support them on site where they're at in come to them support, or they're in a community building within the complex. And so it really is. The partnership has been great, and I really hope that continues.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of walls have, I feel very optimistic that it sounds like in both of your communities, both Matt, Luke, and Michelle, that the families will be more involved in the future because of what has happened. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think they have a basic understanding of what is going on in the classroom. They understand the tech tools, because you hear, a kid comes home with like a Nearpod. Well, what's that? Well,
right.
The parent may actually I sort of know what that is. And so it only helps them engage more, because let's face it, there's a lot of parents out there who they hear the technology and they back away because they're scared.
Right.
But now they feel a little bit more comfortable. They're willing to engage with their students more. And hopefully that just enhances that student's educational support.
Excellent. Excellent. That's great. No, it's really, really great things to hear. So, you've got the professional learning. It sounds like you've both done, school and district have done a great job giving them the tools. How do you go beyond, how have you seen your teachers go beyond just using the technology to deliver content and really dynamic teaching approaches? And I guess, in thinking about that, are there some diverse student needs that you can reflect upon that your teachers have done a great job addressing, during this time? Matt, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'm thinking about, our students in special education who need extra help. I think about how they've advocated for whether they, saying like, hey, I need to be, that special education teacher needs to be part of that class, or they need this type of accommodation. How do we do this accommodation using technology in a virtual world? And just watching them problem solve and try to figure that out. And whether it's, providing like an immersive reader in certain technology, or, providing extra help, or manipulating certain assignments, and just creating extra ways to, engage in that classroom. Co-teaching, you're like, how do I co-teach in a virtual environment? How do I, help grade in a virtual environment? Those are all things that we had to work through and think about. But if I think about, some type of population, I mean, that was really one that we really had to struggle with and really try to figure out how to best meet those needs. But we were able to accomplish it because people came together and figured it out and did what was best for students. So.
Oh, definitely. I'm sure that those were families that really needed your support. So that's great. Luke and Michelle, same thing.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that you asked in your question was, how do we get beyond just delivering content? But I will say that was a great place we needed to start in March when people were new to the technology. So if you would have went into classrooms in March, you would have seen a lot of presentations, kids listening and watching, right? And that needed to happen. There's no way we could have jumped into being, super innovative and having everybody, because we were learning as we were implementing. So now a lot of it that's being done and through Michelle and developing professional development is a focus on the instructional strategy and not the tool. So we gave them the tool we had to so that they could turn it on and use it. But now it's what ways do you use that, and really focusing on those instructional strategies, working when we create documents and guidelines for teachers for this remote and hybrid instruction, putting in explicitly calling out the parts of a lesson, collaboration, different elements, and giving those concrete, tangible examples of, I know this is in your classroom, so if you're using this, you can do this. If you're using this, you can do this. Because sometimes you need to see it, and providing professional development that focuses on instructional strategies over just what's on the toolbar and what can I click. Then this makes a circle, but why do you make a circle? Why should you use that? Those are the kind of focuses that we've been trying to increase over and over again, so that we're not just focused on, here you have content, kids, but that's not going to be enough. How do you engage them in that content?
And I think, in terms of professional development, getting those educators to understand that, I think, the best thing that we do for that is we include all educators in the professional development. So, we don't just offer PD for classroom teachers, right? It's always for specialists, ESOL, special education. And I also think it's those two populations, our English language learners and our students with special needs. It's those two populations that I think can benefit the most from SLSO as well, because it's highly engaging. You can chunk the content, you can make it visual, you can make it tactile. There's independent practice opportunities, there's collaborative practice opportunities. And then once you physically get into the classroom, there's the engagement that the board will provide as well. So, us having the inclusive strategy for the professional development has really helped support those teachers, in addition to the push that we've been trying to make for the use of SLSO district-wide. Knowing that, I will say this, that, given as large as our district is, there's definitely initiatives that those teachers have to follow that come directly out of the office that supervises special education. So that's why, a tool like SLSO is fantastic, because it's not curricular, it's not specific to a content area or something like that. It can take the pedagogy of how you teach those students and make it more engaging and interactive for them.
Excellent. No, that sounds great. So I know this one's a tough one, but if I did a survey to your educators, because we're always trying to find better ways to help our educators, if I did a survey right now, to your educators, what do you think would be the number one thing that first, like the number one thing they still need help with, and number two, what they want to move forward with themselves?
I think for our school, I still think they would like to know the best instructional strategies for online learning, this virtual learning. I think they've got some of them. I think they feel more comfortable, obviously, than they did in March of last year. But what are the best practices? What are the best ways to engage students? What are the best ways to have students collaborate with each other? I just think it's such a refined skill set, and it's something that they just most of our teachers probably did not get a lot of instruction about when they were in college. None of us really saw this coming.
Right.
And so I think that was what they would say, that they would really want to learn and probably build upon. No,
that totally makes sense. I think we're all trying to figure that out with meetings and what is that best practice. Luke and Michelle, what do you think? What are some of your thoughts of what your teachers would say?
So I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that's exactly what a lot of teachers need. But I also think there's a growing group of teachers in our district. And mind you, we have over 9,000 teachers, so the gamut is wide. There's a huge interest growing in learning more strategies for using digital tools to check for understanding. So like formative assessment type tools. So not just the instructional strategies, but then how do I collect that data to choose the instructional strategy? So I see a lot of educators that have gotten comfortable with it, wanting to take it to that next step and put those two puzzle pieces together as well.
Yeah, and then I think there's the technical aspect where the educators are like, there's still some barriers to supporting students. So if a student's really struggling with the technology and I'm not with them, how can I, what strategies can I have to better support that student? Like, how can I use, the Google support site to connect to their laptop and get in, and those kinds of things that help you better manage and work with students, because it can be frustrating when you hit that point where it's like, okay, well, I'm here and you're there, and I really can't guide you. Or as some teachers might do in the classroom, say, listen, you got to get to the content. Let me put you on it real quick. But you can't do that for them. So I think a lot of them would like, what are some strategies and tools and ways that we can better do that as well?
So that you don't leave any student behind, truly. Yeah, I'm sure in a district your size too, that's just something that you're going to struggle with, right? To make sure that you've still got all of them accounted for. That's a lot of students. So excellent. You guys have both answered this, but I'm still gonna keep it as a question. So I'll start with you, Matt. Looking at the infrastructure of your school and how it's supported or helped you or hindered you with remote learning, how do you see it supporting and how do you see you changing? Like, do you think that there'll still be a place in your school, which is unique for hybrid learning moving forward? Like, what major things will change or stay the same?
Right. Well, I will go and first say that the snow days for us are gone. Partly it's because our students live in student homes. And so, as you can imagine, if you have 10 to 12 kids in a home, and you're with them all day, it's quite a challenge. So having school is an advantage for those house parents. And it's a practice just we want to continue. So that's one thing. But I would, we have been forced through this pandemic in our high school because you have to separate kids and only have so many kids. Some of our electives were not able to be offered this year. And so there were kids with open schedules. So we have really started to begin what we're calling our online academy, our Spartan Online Academy, that's really focused on careers. And we've allowed our students in the high school to take online courses that allow them to explore different career areas that they're interested in. And it's low risk, high interest online courses that allow kids just to explore. And it does a couple things. One, it allows them to get on an online environment in a classroom that allows them to like kind of navigate that. Like, how do I, in an asynchronous environment, how do I manage myself? How do I pace myself? How do I push myself to make sure I'm completing these tasks? And another thing, it just gives them an opportunity to engage in some content that they might be interested in and gives them some more information. And I see us continuing to build upon that. I think we've seen some great value in that, and something that we will probably continue to use and build upon as we move forward.
So these are high school students maybe taking something at a different, like a community college or?
No, we actually provide them here.
Okay, so you're doing it yourself.
We're doing it ourselves. We found a provider online that provides the content for us. So a kid could take something in any type of career, so a biotechnology course or a film study course or something like that. It's just, again, it's low risk, but it's high interest and allows them just to kind of explore what they might be interested in. Hey, I'm interested in this type of career or this type of work. And then our second thing is that it gives them an opportunity to engage in online courses that they will probably need to engage on if they go into college. I mean, you probably can't go through college anymore without taking an online course at some point. So
exactly. Well, especially now, right? Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, low risk, but ability to give them an exposure to a topic that they might not have ever had that chance to explore. Correct. That's great. So same question for you, Luke and Michelle, about School District of Philadelphia.
So I think we're right in the thick of it trying to open and get students in person. And so to be transparent, I don't think many people have had a conversation of how are we going to apply this going forward. But once we get to that point, I do think we've learned what we can do. And that provides a level of flexibility in our thinking, I hope, going forward. To say, all right, so next year, what will it mean if there is a snow day? Which I think we've already had that conversation, but I don't know what the official answer is, so I won't say it. Or ever, you don't want to be the bearer of bad news. Although Matt, you jumped right on that. But I get it because your situation is so different from ours that makes 100%. I mean, that makes sense. That you don't want kids just twiddling thumbs all day. But I do think what it does is it's allowed us to know what we can do with technology and not being in classrooms. And I do think it's going to make our decision making more flexible and open us up to, okay, here's how we've struggled in that same vein, Matt, with offering even language courses where we don't have enough students at a school to take that language. How can we look at going forward? Or computer science courses. We don't have enough interest at this school, but there are a handful that want to take it, and just budgeting and teacher allotment. So I think it'll be flexibility in making decisions going forward.
And also, I'm going to chime in here also with adults finally understanding that little kiddos can use technology. Like our kindergarten students can use a Chromebook. They can engage with technology even at that beginner level, which will then change what instruction looks like throughout all of the years as well.
Excellent. And you know what? I'm realizing I'm coming, this went so fast. I'm coming to the end of time. So I'm going to quickly, because I think this is a good one. If you could go back in time to talk to yourself before the pandemic, what is the one piece of advice you would pass on either to yourself or to your school or community about this time? So Matt, I'll let you tackle that first.
I think just to be courageous and to be willing to step out and take chances. And that's what we've all had to do, whether you're an administrator, whether you're a tech coach, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a student, whether you're a parent. You had to be courageous, and we'll get through this. And I think by taking these chances, it's allowed us just to grow and to experience some things that we're going to be able to take with us and really and empower our schools as we move forward.
Excellent. I love that. Luke and Michelle?
I think from my lens, because Luke and I kind of have two, lanes in our work in the office. I think for me, I think the advice I would give myself is if and when possible, slow down. Take your time, be intentional about what you're doing. Because I think, the place we're at with PD right now, we could have been there 6 months ago if we just had a chance to breathe, reflect, and slow down. Knowing that's not always possible, but if and when possible, just slow down just a little bit.
Yeah, and that's also what I would say that we. I wish I could go back and tell myself how long this is going to last. So that in making decisions, we would think so much further ahead and say, you know what, this isn't just an implementation until September comes and we're back in person. Be prepared to put things in place for the long run, and that's what I would tell myself.
Excellent. You guys, thank you so much on behalf of PETE&C. I mean, you guys have done a great job, and I think you really have helped us understand the benefits that this really has brought to moving teaching and learning forward. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having us. And thank you, Luke and Michelle. We really appreciate your time and your inspiring thoughts. I think we had a couple closing words from Ramon.
Yeah, basically, Brandon, we actually ran out of time, but I just want to thank again, literally, to our guests, Matt, Luke, and Michelle. There are other sessions that Smart and Visual Sound will have throughout the PETE&C, so please join us again. And thank you again for our sessions. And so to that note, I know, Brant, our time is scheduled over, so thank you so much to PETE&C and everyone on board. And thanks, Kristin and Heather, for your support.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you so
Luke,
much,
Michelle, and Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you
everybody.
Thank you so much to our presenters for an outstanding session today. And thank you to everyone for attending. Please visit the sponsor gallery to view the resources they are sharing and to earn some game points. They sponsor a conference, and we need your help to thank them for their sponsorship. In addition, don't miss the ongoing discussions in the attendee lounge. This is a great way to connect with the other conference participants. Remember to complete the session evaluation for Act 48. Session evaluations are available after the session has ended in the attendee lounge under the sessions evaluation link. And remember, you will have on-demand access to all recorded sessions through August 2021. Have a great evening. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
everyone.
Thank you.